Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. I believe this is episode 189 of the show. Nate Maxson, your host, here with you.
Holy fuck. 189?
189. And I'm along there, you hear him. My brother Aaron is here.
What's up, bitches?
And Mr. Mark Brew as well.
How you doing, hoes?
And bitches ain't shit, but hoes and
Hoes
This week on the show, we are going down Texas way into the world-class championship wrestling territory. And we're not going into world-class championship wrestling territory when it was good, from like 82 to 85, maybe into 86. No, we are into 1987 this week on the show, and we are going to be discussing the fourth annual Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. Exploitative much?
Yeah, how many of those fuckers die? Sorry.
The show itself, just to show you I guess I'll start out with it. One of the things that has always baffled me, especially about these later shows for World Class, is, and I know Fritz probably got a deal on the arena or on the stadium or something, but why? Why would you put on this? Did he really think that at some point he was going to put together a show that was going to draw, that looked good in that stadium? Because it looks pathetic. It looks pathetic on TV to be in that huge ass stadium with so many empty seats. Why wouldn't you just do this show in a smaller arena where you could like Vince did? You know, Vince, even when his attendance was low, he would still at least try to make it look and sound like he had a big audience.
Yeah, but see, like, if you look at the show, and I'm not even disagreeing with you, but if you look at the show, as the show goes on, the crowd gets bigger.
Yeah. But still,
Vince was smart enough to be like, oh, well, people aren't coming to the gardens, so we're going to go to the Fern Gardens.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, people aren't coming to the fucking Philadelphia Spectrum anymore, so we're going to go to, like you were saying, like it's like
Bumfuck Egypt in Texas,
like that. Just as an example, for example, that arena in the arena they did Raw from a lot in Poughkeepsie, and the one in Utica. Those two buildings were smaller buildings, but the way the seating was and everything, it still looked good on TV. It still looked sold out. Still looked like it was a big crowd.
Yeah, and he would take all those people, or his production people, and say, okay, this part of it's not sold out, so let's flip everybody over here.
Yeah. And
we're just going to film it from there. And it's not even Vince. Eric did that shit too. You know what I mean? Like, all right, let's just put everybody over here. Say, come sit down in the bucket seats, or in the, like, you know.
Yeah, but
WWE and AEW do it today.
Right. At that point, you don't fucking use multiple camera angles, though. And if you do use a different camera angle, it should be one where you can have the crowd in it, but not see all the empty space.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
put everybody in this fucking pocket and be like,
oh, right.
We know you bought that cheap seat, but come on down, because we're gonna make it right for you. You know,
not right. Fritz though.
Nope.
Just to put it in perspective, I'm looking on Wikipedia here. The attendance for this show is 5,900.
Oh, that's definitely doctored.
And it's in Texas Stadium. Remember, 5,900. The capacity for Texas Stadium was 65,675. So there you go.
Nobody cared about Mike.
And actually, there's probably more capacity with a wrestling event. You know, this is probably the capacity for football. So with a wrestling event, you could add more chairs. So essentially, you have a higher capacity and a lower audience. But yeah, that's what we're dealing with here.
A bunch of fucking dipshits is what we were dealing with.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And I know we're talking about this show in 1987. It's May of 87. There are highlights for World Class Championship Wrestling. This is not it. Like I said, I enjoy World Class from watching World Class from around late 82 until mid to late 86. And yes, Fritz was still doing exploitative things. He did them from the moment pretty much David Von Erich died. And that's something that you can talk about and we could debate about, or I think we probably said to death in this show about Fritz.
Well,
If this was a tribute to
put him
me,
in the Hall of
I'd
Shame.
come back from the grave to whoop his ass. Just saying. If that was a tribute to me, I'd come back from the grave just to whoop his ass.
I'm pretty sure I put Fritz in the Hall of Shame.
Probably. But, I mean, to be honest, yes. And again, like I said, he did exploitative things, capitalizing on the deaths of his children and his awful heart attack angle and blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, Vince has done hundreds of exploitative things in his career.
But at least
I'm just
and funny. And he was the one that got the comeuppance of it.
Usually.
Fritz was always trying to be like the guy that was, I had the heart attack, but now I'm going to come up and I'm going to beat Bundy because I had my heart attack.
Well, I'm just saying this isn't me trying to. I'm not trying to defend Fritz in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying he's not a unique snowflake here. I mean, and I'm not. This is also not a show about Vince either. I'm just making a comparison. I mean, probably Over the Edge 1999 should have been stopped. You know what I mean? Like decisions were made.
Yeah, but I'm sure if seven other people would have fell out of this fucking scaffolds or whatever, he would have been like, we should probably stop it.
This is true too.
And if that would have been his child, he probably been like, we probably shouldn't sell tickets to the funeral.
This is true. I'm not disagreeing with you. I was just
on Eric.
Well, speaking of Fritz, we're going to go to his promotion here, and here it is, the Parade of Champions, 1887. Aaron says it is the
Parody of Champions.
The Parody of Champions.
Fuck Fritz Von Erich. Hashtag fuck him. I hate that guy. Hashtag I hope he burns.
All right, we get it.
Hashtag we get it.
Mark Lawrence is in his pimp shades here to start out the show. That's my first thing that I put down. Mark Lawrence in pimp shades.
I like Mark Lawrence.
I do too. I always thought he was a competent ring announcer and a competent play-by-play guy.
Yep.
I actually like him better than Bill Mercer.
That's
okay. I like Mark Lawrence calling the action. Like Bill Mercer to me is more like Mean Gene. Like I like watching Bill Mercer interact with the wrestlers, but I would rather Mark Lawrence be on play-by-play. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. Like him in the arena while this shit's happening is better than Bill. But Bill Mercer's.
Oh yeah, Bill Mercer at the Freebirds house. Bill Mercer at the Freebirds house, or out hunting with the Von Erichs, or
when he went down the fucking slide and all that shit. Yeah, it's much better.
The opening match of this show, oof. And this tells you the state of World Class at this time, because one of the participants here, Black Bart, is a former World Class heavyweight champion.
Yeah, and they accentuate that multiple times. Like, you're trying to tell me that this promotion's so great that this fucking slack-jawed monkey is the fucking former world champion. It's like, whatever.
We got Black Bart and Jack Victory with Percy Pringle, and Jack Victory's haircut was terrible on this show. Against Matt Bourne and Scott Casey. So, Mark,
This is my two notes on this whole match. Was this a battle for who had the worst hair in the business or the most hamburger meat on their chest? And Matt Bourne looked like Dr. Death's mini doppelganger.
Doctor on life support.
Yeah. Dr. Doink.
Dr. Doink. The match, it isn't great. It isn't terrible, but it isn't great. Everybody in the match is a competent wrestler. Black Bart.
Three of them are good.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I would put one of them out of that competent.
The reason I say Black Bart is a competent worker is because Black Bart was a competent enhancement talent in the WWF. He's not a world championship caliber wrestler, but there's a reason certain enhancement talent gets to be on the card a lot. And that's because people want to work with them. So I will give him marks in that he is a competent worker. But not at a high level, I guess is what I'm saying.
He sucks balls.
This is probably the most we've ever talked about Black Bart and the most we ever will talk about Black Bart.
I was about to say, yeah, that shit won't happen twice.
I am not a fan of Scott Casey.
I like Scott Casey.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of Scott Casey. I don't know what it is. I don't know. And again, it's not, for me, it's not this guy stinks or anything. It's just this guy doesn't even remotely get on my radar at all.
We talked about him during the PWI 500.
He's kind of what you said about Black Bart, that I think he's never going to be like a main event star or even a middle card guy, but he's a capable worker that could have a good 5-minute match with somebody like Brett or Kurt on like a Superstars or whatever. Like, and Jack Victory's the same way. And Matt Bourne is or was a super talented guy that his own demons got in his way. The only thing that got in the way of Black Bart was the fact that he was a fat, sloppy son of a bitch that should have never been on TV.
Scott Casey actually had a little small run in the WWF in like late 87. I think it was late 87 because I think he's at the Survivor Series, the first Survivor Series, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had like he had matches where he was the non-enhancement talent on like prime time.
Well, to wrap up this matchup, like I said, the match
and homosexual Bobby Heenan is managing them.
Yes, I did mention that. Percival Pringle III is here in all his greatness.
It's so weird seeing him with that blonde hair.
He was so good. So good.
It's like, because when you see him, you just got that imprint of Paul Bearer, and it's like, the fuck is going on here?
He is the only, other than one other guy, he is the only, I shouldn't say one other guy, one of the only two people on this entire show that is a national talent, if that makes sense. Like worldly talent is Percy Pringle.
You say on the show?
Yeah, on the show. He is the one guy, or one of the three guys on this entire show that I'm like, this dude is a talent that you could put on national TV.
Okay. I would say I would have 4 to 5, but we can that'll be an interesting part of this.
We'll see.
But anyway, to wrap up this match, we've talked about it long enough. Matt Bourne pins Black Bart with a power slam. I put with a power slam out of nowhere, like an RKO, and ends this debacle. In our next match, Killer Tim Brooks and Steve Dahl. My first note is I never noticed until watching this show that Steve Dahl looks like he's Stevie Richards' older brother.
He's also Steve Dunn from Well Done.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes.
So this is Brooks and Dunn.
They're wrestling under the neon moon. Sorry, the sun was up. My joke doesn't work, but
hold on. You got what as match number 2?
Tim Brooks and Steve Dahl.
Killer Tim Brooks versus Steve Dahl.
That's match 6 on mine.
Well, it's because you don't know math.
Did you watch the same video we watched?
I watched it on the Peacock in the multiple episodes.
Oh, so, I watched the YouTube version.
Yeah. Here up north, we got the YouTube.
I have the YouTube too, fucker. I sent you that next show that we're going to cover on the YouTube link.
The YouTube. I like the YouTube. Just like when people say I'm going to the Walmart.
We don't watch
they
it
just
on
call
the
it Wally World.
Yeah, we call it Wally World here too, but we don't watch it on the antenna.
So do me a favor, Mark.
What's that?
Look up real quick. Steve Dahl.
We're gonna make him watch the entire show before we comment on it.
No.
Oh, I watched the match. It was just in a different order on Peacock.
I'm saying look up Steve Dahl, an image of Steve Dahl, and tell me if you think I'm right about the fact that he looks like Stevie Richards' older brother.
You said Stevie Richards' older brother?
Yeah, he looks like he's Stevie Richards' older brother.
He looks like kind of, but the first impression that I get is when the fuck did Dr. Tom Pritchard not have so many curls?
This match is not good. And I actually like Steve Dahl. I like the Well Done tag team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Well Done is a good tag team.
But this match isn't good
in WCW though.
This match isn't good, but what I will say is that apparently Steve Dahl's mom was in the audience because throughout the entire match, there's a woman going, "Come on, Steve!"
There's 2 notes that I had on this. It was at first I had to do a double take on Steve Dahl because at first it looked like Tito Santana was in the ring with some rocker pants on. And the other thing was the only killer thing about Tim Brooks is that killer balding that he has going on.
It's another guy that, as much as I've watched like Texas wrestling and stuff, just can't get into it. You know what? Apparently for his time down there, like he was an overheel and everything, but I just can't. I don't see it.
He would have been perfect for the Skinner gimmick.
Touche. Touche.
Perfect. Like
Tim, there's people that like him, and Nate, don't get me wrong, wasn't or isn't friend of the We Can't Wrestle podcast network. Was Barry Rose a fan of him?
No.
Not
that I know of.
I'm thinking of. Okay, it doesn't matter then. Tim Brooks sucks. So good, we can say that. Tim Brooks was trash. I didn't like him.
Only thing killer about him was the killer bald spot he had going on.
Both of Tim Brooks is like a pedophile. I'll just say it.
The next match, well, Steve Dahl wins this match.
I know, and the commentator says something that's super funny. Or not the commentator, the announcer. And it's Steve Lawrence, right?
No, it's Bill Mercer. Or no, you mean the ring announcer or the announcer?
The ring announcer.
Oh yeah, Mark Lawrence, yes.
I'm gonna have to bounce around on this one because obviously I got the fucked up order here because I watched it on Peacock and you watched it on YouTube. But
Mark Lawrence, after the 1, 2, 3, that Doll hits, he goes, Steve Doll with the small package.
yeah.
And then Steve Doll's probably just standing like, really?
Steve
dude?
Doll's like, hey!
Not in front of my mother.
It's not even
Yeah,
that cold. It's not even that cold out. We're in the sweltering heat of Texas.
Good shit, pal.
Small shit, pal.
The next match
Is the Grappler versus Cousin Junior.
Yes,
Oh
it
my
is the
God.
Grappler versus Cousin Junior. Cousin Junior has
me
recently left the World Wrestling Federation as he was part of the Hillbillies faction, I believe, in the WWF. Well, that would have been 85,
Where else
86.
came from?
Hell, I don't know. They had hillbillies all over pro wrestling. There's been a hillbilly in every territory.
You
since
didn't
the
know
beginning
there'd
of
been
time.
wrestling in the South since way back when.
back before they got the YouTubes.
Yeah. Before
Listen.
the YouTube.
Well, this little shit kicker, he came right out of the WWF.
Who? Cousin Junior or the Grappler?
Cousin Junior.
Yeah, he looked like Hillbilly Jim's illegitimate son.
I didn't write much about the match. I do like, and this is not necessarily this match, but just from the world class that I've watched over the years. I am a fan of the Grappler. I do like him.
Nate, do you know who else you like?
Who?
That stole a gimmick from the Grappler?
Stole it from the Grappler?
Yeah.
Who?
Raven.
Hmm?
Raven stole one of the Grappler's gimmicks, and guess what he stole?
What is still?
The lifted boot.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that. Well, he would have been a fan because Grappler was a big deal in Portland.
Yeah,
at one time.
Because in the match, they even mentioned that Grappler has the lifted boot, and then Raven stole that shit because Levy was I don't want to say it, uneven footed. Is that a word? I don't know, but I might not be stating it right. But Scott Levy had to have a lifted boot because he didn't have. You know what I'm saying? You can edit this out.
Yes.
But basically,
that's why you shouldn't get drunk before the show.
well, I'm not drunk right now. What I'm saying is, like Raven's right foot and left foot weren't perfect,
The same size, right?
and neither were Grapplers, and they sold it with I'm gonna have the lifted boot because yeah,
but I didn't even put 2 and 2 together there.
You didn't have no notes on this match?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Actually, no. My notes are I do dig the Grappler, and Cousin Junior wins with a big fat splash.
well, see, maybe Nate, maybe you should get drunk before you do these shows. So you can understand that Raven knew that Grappler had an uneven foot and stole his gimmick.
If I was drunk, I'd have forgot it if I knew it.
But I knew it now, and I'm drunk and remembered it.
Well, then we obviously have reversed.
Touche for Aaron being a smart one.
And Uncle Junior hit
It's cousin, not uncle.
Cousin Junior. If you wouldn't get
Wrong
drunk before the
family
show, you would know he's a cousin and not an uncle.
But I'm pretty sure he fucked his sister, so he became her uncle.
Something
Uncle
about
Daddy.
a brunk. Somebody say something about a brunkle.
Bronco Jr. hit
Uncle.
an amazing flying head scissors in this match.
Yeah, he did. For a big guy, that was pretty impressive. The three notes that I had on this was that Cousin Junior looked like as soon as he was done with the match that he had a shindig and a hoedown to get to. Also,
he also looks like he smells like French fries.
For sure. And if he would have kicked me with those Guatemalan ground grabber feet, this would have been a shoot.
This fucking show is stupid.
And the referee seemed like he was in better shape than both the combatants.
But yeah, Cousin Junior wins this debacle. And like I said, I like the grappler. Actually, grappler to something you were saying about Percy earlier, Aaron. Maybe not in the 90s, but in the 70s and 80s, I can see the grappler. I would say he could be a major TV wrestler. So I'd put him in that category.
This might be the dumbest show we've ever done.
As long as you're aware.
I'm aware.
The next match is Red River Jack, which is Bruiser Brody under a mask.
Oh my God.
And Spike Huber. Of course, Red River Jack is essentially the world class's version of the Midnight Rider storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Red River Jack and Spike Huber versus Abdullah the Butcher and Eli the Eliminator.
I'm going to say, sorry,
go ahead. I was just going to say they have Gary Hart and Mr. Holiday in their corner.
I'm going to say this. I'm a Bruiser Brody fan. Okay.
Indeed.
But I think Red River Jack looks like a fucking moron.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, before the match really got even good and started, he was already bleeding through the mask kind of threw me.
Yeah, he looks like a tampon.
Yeah. It's like it's just absorbing more of the blood. And I was thinking to myself, was this where that number 10 gimmick came from in AEW?
Maybe. I'll tell you this, too. I don't know if you guys knew this, and I mean, it doesn't matter. The reality of it doesn't matter. But Spike Huber was Dick the Bruiser's son-in-law. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Nah.
Yeah, he worked in he's from Indianapolis.
No wonder he went by Spike Huber and not something Murdoch.
But yeah, he is Dick the Bruiser's son-in-law. He actually got his start in Indiana.
Where was he at in 88?
Dick the Bruiser?
No, his son-in-law. Where was he in 88?
I don't know.
Well, in 87, he was in this fucking stadium.
He wasn't protecting his fucking goddamn father-in-law. I can tell you that much.
No. What notes do you got on the match?
Well, my main note on this match is this is essentially an Abdullah the Butcher versus Bruiser Brody match.
Yeah. With
these other two goofs just there to make it a tag team match, because essentially that was what this was. This is Bruiser Brody versus Abdullah the Butcher. The other guys they get in once in a while and they're involved in the finish and stuff. But like I said, this is Bruiser versus Abby, and Eli and Spike Huber are just there to be there. This Eli, the Eliminator guy, I don't know his story. I don't know.
I only had two notes on this match. It said, I don't know which set of tits were bigger on Abdullah, the front or the back.
Oh, he's got super front butt.
And he didn't have to hide his weapon in his pants. He could have picked a roll and it probably would have stuck.
No, but he's got rolls in his rolls.
Exactly.
You got to pay the tolls.
So he had
rolls.
Compartments there. He didn't have to shove that damn fork and all inside his britches. He could have just picked the roll, stuck that guy, and he'd have been good.
Yeah. And Abdullah Butcher is the human old country buffet.
or in more modern terms, Golden Corral.
He looks like the chocolate fountain. I started going into Men in Tights. A roll's a roll, and a toll's a toll. Anyway, you're right, Aaron.
I was thinking that, though. After he took that damn Yeah, after he took that damn fork.
Am I
out of his
wrong?
pants.
This is the fucking stupidest show.
This is the
we've
stupidest show we've ever done. This subject matter is so bad.
I only have one good thing to say throughout this whole fucking show, so you know it was shit.
I actually am a fan of watching Bruiser and Abby, so I didn't mind this match, to be honest with you. It just
I knew you liked Spike Huber. I knew that.
oof.
Well, I mean, whenever I saw the Red River Jack thing, I thought two things: either that's Bruiser or that's Billy Jack Haynes.
I just thought human tampon.
Yeah,
What I don't understand, the finish of this was stupid too.
Well, the entire fucking match was stupid.
Right, but they did this whole spot where Spike Huber gets screwed out of pinning Eli. And then and then like 14 seconds later he pins the guy anyway. Like, why did you even do the screw him out of the pin spot?
Nobody cares.
That one lady does about Steve Dahl.
it's like, look, it's like coming to see Abdullah the Butcher was like going to see the bearded lady at the circus. You really didn't give a fuck, but you just had to see it.
Yeah, it's an attraction. Yes, absolutely.
Right. This was definitely the land of the misfit toys here.
Well, because Red River Jack and Spike Huber win this ridiculous match, Red River Jack gets 5 minutes with Gary Hart. And I am a big fan of Gary Hart.
But Gary Hart wins.
Ricky Flair. Yeah, you're right.
And that's stupid. Like, the heel manager's team loses, so then he gets 5 minutes with fucking human tampon, and then Gary Hart beats human tampon. It's like, that's...
I could have went the rest of my life without seeing him without his fucking shirt on, though.
You know what's worse?
That's the thing nightmares are made of.
Speaking of
what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
I agree.
If the heel team, if the heel team's gimmick is that if they lose, then the faces get
their chicken shit heel manager,
then the big titty manager shouldn't fucking get the advantage, but he does. This whole fucking thing is fucking stupid.
I did make a connection here, though. Gary Hart looked like the guy from Scary Movie, Grab My Strong Hand with a bald head.
Chris
Elliott? Chris Elliott.
Yeah, Chris Elliott.
I was thinking, grab my strong hand.
Who Chris Elliott was.
Instead of we need more cowbell, Aaron needs more alcohol.
The 5 minutes with the wrestler stipulation. The only time that I've seen it done worse, it was actually done worse by the WWF. And you're right, Aaron. If Gary Hart has to do the 5 minutes with Red River Jack, the payoff should be that he gets his ass kicked, and that's that.
Exactly.
The only time I've ever seen that stipulation done worse was when the WWF did it once. And they've done it multiple times, but one time. It's also a stipulation, if you're going to advertise it, you should probably deliver on it, especially on a pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
WrestleMania 12. They had that stipulation with Cornette where if his team lost, he was going to have to be in there for 5 minutes with Yokozuna, and his team won. You shouldn't have put that stipulation on that match if you didn't intend to pay off that stipulation, because
they swerved.
Yeah, because then you cheat the
but
fans.
you don't. But you shouldn't. WrestleMania is not the place to do that.
I like it.
Not because people are going to tune in just to see Cornette get his ass whooped.
I like it against Swerve, though.
Yeah, good Swerve's good every now and then.
Because then you thought, they didn't lose. That's believable.
I still say that. I was just not a fan. I thought they should have delivered. And we're talking about a completely different show 9 years later. So I'll get
That
off
just tells you how bad this fucking show sucked because you ramble on to another show in hopes that it's something worth talking about.
well, can I give you my notes on the next match?
What's the next match?
El Madril versus Mil Mascaras.
Mil Mascaras has a crossbody. 1, 2, 3.
Well,
I have another note. I actually got popped by El Madril in this match. Like I actually popped for because Mil Mascaras puts him in a abdominal stretch, and he goes, "Hi, yay, yay, yay!"
Yeah.
I was like, "That's fucking great, man! That was awesome." He was like, "Hi, yay, yay, yay!"
I didn't even watch it because it was a Mil Mascaras match.
Well, I mean, this is the only match that I had anything good to say about. Legit, my comment on this was this is the first match I was actually somewhat into, and it actually had some athletic spots in it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I get why people like as far as like his personality or whatever goes, but I've never seen where hate for Mil comes from. He's a perfectly competent wrestler, and he was obviously over.
They did a great job telling somewhat of a story in the ring, and that's the only match that I could say throughout this whole fucking shit show that this actually happened for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, and I liked the match too, but I noticed that a lot of, and I don't know if maybe it's the age group, maybe it's just because a lot of people in our age group haven't seen.
No, he fucking sucks.
No, he doesn't.
Nah.
No, he doesn't.
That was a completely redundant statement.
No, he fucking sucks.
No, he doesn't. How? Why? Why does he suck?
Did you
because he watched the match? Because he
watched
could
I've watched a lot of his matches, and he fucking sucks.
No, he doesn't. I will say like everything I read about him as far as a personality goes, he's not a swell fella.
Right.
But I've never gotten the hate on him as a wrestler.
He's not somebody I would want to kick back shots of tequila with. But the match did not suck. This was the only athletic match on this whole fucking card that I actually somewhat enjoyed. Like it wasn't like my top 10 greatest matches of all time. But give me this whole shit show and put that match in there, and this is the one thing I enjoyed.
Okay. I'm not gonna argue with people.
I'm
not gonna argue with people they like, but I'm just gonna say
it's not a hey, listen.
No, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
And there's a difference between an argument and a debate. So it's fine. We can debate. That's fine.
But if you watch this match and didn't say this was the most athletic thing you've seen all night, you obviously didn't watch the show closely.
This guy fucking sucks, and I hate him.
But like Aaron said, Mascaras wins this match with a high cross body. And I guess Mark and I are in agreement. This was a good match.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible. It was the most passable thing I've seen on this whole card.
The next match is for the world class world heavyweight championship, because by this point, WCCW had left the NWA. They were no longer associated with the NWA, so they were the World Class Wrestling Association.
Did I say this?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
But this guy they're going to talk about, not Nord, but this guy is the guy that I would tell you is the best wrestler on the entire show.
It's
Kevin.
Yeah, I know. I was looking up and down the thing to see, is there somebody in here that I would think is a better because I also think he's my favorite Von Erich brother, but
and maybe not necessarily my favorite wrestler on the entire show, but I think this match is the best wrestling match on the entire show.
And this is how I fucked up, because I watched it on Peacock, and I probably got like 3 more matches than y'all do. So I watched some extra shit.
No, you don't. There's more stuff after this.
Oh, gotcha.
This match wasn't the last match on the card.
It was on in the sequential order that they did it on them shows.
So let me rephrase what I was saying. He's not my favorite wrestler on the entire show, but just basic, solid wrestling match. This is my favorite wrestling match on the show.
And that's because the Fantastics had to be in a scaffold match, and scaffold matches suck. But
That
we'll get to that
match.
But we're going to get there.
We'll get there. I fucking hate scaffold matches. But anyway.
I have notes on that. But just basic wrestling match. This is my favorite one on the show.
Well, I mean,
it's Kevin Von Erich versus Nord the Barbarian. It's a basic wrestling match, and it told a good story, and I enjoyed it.
I only had 2 notes on this whole thing on that match. Was I would have liked to see an ending to this one, and that the Barbarian's curls were fucking luxurious.
You can't. the reason you didn't get a good ending to this is context. The feud continues after this, so that's why.
I understand that, but damn, this is a tribute to your brother. At least have a knockdown, drag out, double disqualification or something like that. Not no fucking pansy ass double count out.
But like I said, just for historical context that I was getting into earlier, World Class had left the NWA. So they were I think it was right around the time right before Rick Rude became their champion. And they switched over to being they pretty much just made themselves their own NWA and called it the World Class Wrestling Association. So they call their title a World Championship. And one of the things that I was like, I call bullshit was when Bill Mercer said that this was supposed to be Antonio Inoki challenging for the title here tonight. There was no goddamn way Antonio Inoki was coming to wrestle for World Class in 1987. No way.
Well, he probably did, but then he saw the opening match was Black Bart and Jack Victory versus Matt Borden and Scott Casey, and he was like, yeah. Black Bart?
I know Mark mentioned that he didn't like he wasn't satisfied by the finish, but the finish, if you were gonna do a double count out, it was a cool finish. Like Kevin gets the claw on Nord, or Nord has Kevin up on his shoulder, and to counter that, Kevin gets the claw hold on John Nord, and then they go over the top rope, and then it's a double count out. They brawl on the outside, and I don't know. I thought my note here was funny, apparently, because I wrote LOL in capital letters. They brawl out by the wall at the stadium, and they brawl past the biggest dryer vent ever. That thing looked like a gigantic dryer vent. I don't know. It was probably some kind of like irrigation thing or something that was sitting on the field. But I was like, that's the biggest goddamn dryer vent I've ever seen.
Probably was.
You should see the size of the pants. All right. But yeah, I agree with Aaron on Kevin. This was probably the best. This is probably overall the best wrestling match on the show.
And honestly, Kevin was the best Von Erich.
He was.
As far as like looks go, and
because okay, I'll put a star next to it. I'll put a star next to it. We'll put a star next to this, an asterisk. Kevin is the best Von Erich since David died at 24, and we don't know what David would have become. Because David was pretty fucking good too. And I'm not saying Kerry wasn't. But out of all of the brothers, Kevin is my favorite. Yeah,
and that's vice versa on me for that because.
And I'm sorry, guys.
I misspoke.
I misspoke.
Okay.
We're talking about World Class, and I said Kerry and not Curry.
Well,
that's
Kerry for me, I never knew he didn't have but one fucking leg until I read that later on.
Right.
So like they did a damn good job of hiding that.
I'm just saying, fucking Kevin, that dude, man,
Oh, I agree. He was great.
fucking great.
Now, had they not had the problems they had in their family, they'd probably be known as the best wrestling dynasty. But
Possibly, and I would think I would honestly say Kevin would if all of them still had all their heads, I think Kevin would still be the best one.
I mean, I'm not arguing that. It's just personally, my personal preference. I prefer Kerry over Kevin, but Kevin did do great shit. I'm not discounting that whatsoever.
Oh yeah, and by saying Kevin's the favorite, I'm in no way diminishing Kerry either, because I was especially.
I'm not diminishing any of them either.
Didn't say you were, but the especially in the moment, and Aaron probably remembers just because we grew up together. Maybe not so much now, and I'm not dissing Kerry, but especially in the moment, man, I was a huge fucking Texas Tornado fan as a kid.
Indeed.
I loved the Texas Tornado.
That was legitimately my first wrestling memory ever, was watching that Texas Tornado versus the Warlord on, I think it was Rampage 92. It might have been 91, but I think it was 92. And that literally is what got me into wrestling. My mother bought that for me at a yard sale in Michigan City, Indiana. So, I mean,
yeah, like I said, I'm not knocking Kerry. I'm not knocking Kerry, and I would say Kerry, even now, would probably be the bigger star. But
he was Herculean,
and David was probably the better, like, all around
technician
talent, like with his promos and his like ability or whatever. But
right.
But Kevin was, how do I want to say it?
He was charismatic.
Yeah, like you got Brad Armstrong, okay, and you got Jesse James Armstrong. Nate, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got Brad and you got Jesse over here. But then in the middle, you got Steve. You know what I'm saying? Kevin is Steve Armstrong. Like, he is all of it, all together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That might get too deep. I don't know. But that's what I think of Kevin Von Erich. But we can move on.
The next match that we get into here, I don't know how the majority of our listeners feel. You could always send us a comment or what have you. I am not a fan of scaffold matches. Not only are they ugly and not much happens, but they're dangerous and there's no reason for it.
You're fucking boring.
Now, the match we're referencing on this show is the Rock and Roll RPMs and Eric Embry. I am a big Eric Embry fan. Versus the Fantastics and Steve Simpson. I like that whole team.
I'm a Tommy Rogers fan. This has two of my favorite wrestlers ever in it. Eric Embry and Tommy fucking Rogers. And they're in a goddamn scaffold match. And I fucking hate every goddamn scaffold match I've ever seen.
My only note on this was I am not a fan whatsoever of these types of matches.
No, it did have a great start, though. The heels trying to escape and then having to climb back up. That was funny.
That was funny. And that's how a scaffold match, I think, should go. Because, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I went to a match or a card in Lima, and they were like, oh, we're going to have a scaffold match. And it was in Lima, Ohio. All right? And these two indie workers did the best scaffold match I'd ever seen. And it was Dusty Dillinger and this other guy. And what they did was this guy Dusty Dillinger was
I got
the
to look
face.
him up now.
He was the face, and this other guy was the heel. And the heel came out, and Dusty Dillinger attacked him, okay, as he was walking out because he was so mad. So he attacked him, and they brawled and brawled and brawled, and the heel was attempting to escape from him, and they wound up onto the scaffold, and then Dusty threw him off of it.
Yes. So the match took place not on the scaffold, but the finish took place on the scaffold.
Yeah, because the guy was trying to get away from him. So when they did that, that fucking made sense to me. But when both teams like climb up and say, "Okay, we're gonna start here now," it's like that's fucking retarded. That's Gump. I don't understand that.
Yes, this again, like we said, there's not, you don't really get to have notes on a match like this because, like Aaron said, nothing happens in a scaffold match. It's just a bunch of guys.
The powder spot.
I didn't even enjoy it when the Road Warriors did it.
No, I've never liked the theory or this match. I don't know. It came out of, I believe it came out of Memphis. I think Jerry Jarrett actually did the first one.
Good for him.
But the concept of it just
Aaron said that so nonchalant. Good for him.
the concept of it just doesn't work, and it doesn't translate into anything exciting whatsoever. And
because the whole time they're sitting there like, "Fuck! I hope I don't fall off this son of a bitch."
Yeah,
And
they spend half the time on on all fours, just like crawling around.
Right. And on this match, the whole Eric Embry thing, where he was the one that finally fell off. It was like you could watch him like as soon as his feet hit, he just gives all his weight to his back, so his knees don't fucking break.
Well, he don't want to get corneted,
Right?
And blow out both knees. That's the goal. Just don't cornet it. But yeah, like Aaron said, there was a powder spot to end the match. Eric Embry accidentally gets the powder from Mike Davis, and then he winds up going off the scaffold. And
am I the only one that thought that Eric Embry somewhat looked like a younger Tommy Rich?
Yeah,
kinda.
I'm the only one that thought that, Aaron. Thank you.
To me, he more resembles Doug Summers.
Doug Summers.
But Eric Embry,
fuck, I'd rather give him credit for looking like Tommy Rich than Doug Summers.
Eric Embry does, and I don't know how much of him you have watched, Mark, but he does a heel gimmick that is very rare in that he doesn't do the chicken shit heel. He doesn't do the strong heel. He doesn't do the arrogant heel. He does the crybaby heel. And he is a great crybaby heel. And I hope that what I'm saying makes sense. But he literally would cry. Like there are times where he literally would sit in the ring and cry. I bet that's where Christian got the inspiration for his crybaby gimmick.
I ain't watched a whole hell of a lot of Eric Embry. I'm gonna be honest. This is pretty much probably the third match of his that I've seen.
The first time I discovered him was watching Global in the 90s when it was on ESPN when I was a kid. And then obviously as I've gotten older, I've gone back and watched a lot more. But he's a guy that I would definitely recommend to you being younger than me, that you haven't seen a lot of. I would recommend, I would say I could recommend you go watch some Eric Embry and say that I'm not putting you on a wild goose chase for something good, Oh,
it's good shit. Eric Embry is like, how do I say it? Almost like an Eddie Gilbert type heel.
Yeah.
Like he's not gonna be the heel that's like Rick Rude, who's a badass, or even a Ric Flair, who's I'm this guy.
Or like we were discussing, well, off the air, Bret Hart, who's like smug, you know.
Yeah. He's the chicken shit crybaby heel.
Well, that puts a pin on the scaffold match. So we go to our last match on the show. It is Bruiser Brody, and I don't know why, but I'm not necessarily a fan of the guy as a wrestler, but I like his look. I like his look. He looks like a badass, and I don't know why, but I always thought it was so fun and so cool that they called him Mr. Jeep Swenson.
Yeah, he looked like something that should have been in fucking Predator with Jesse Ventura.
Now, my question to you, Mark, again, folks, this is
Montalo Bane. This guy played the original Bane.
The match is Bruiser Brody and Jeep Swenson. My question for Mark, because I know Aaron already knows, but Mark, do you know where you may have seen Jeep Swenson not in World Class, maybe when you were younger?
Maybe Bane.
Well, yeah, Bane, but I mean in wrestling.
Not so much in wrestling. Hold on.
Do you remember
Corporal Kirshner in them?
No.
Nope. He was the ultimate solution.
Do you remember the Alliance to End Hulkamania, uncensored 1996, where they brought Zeus in?
Yeah.
And he was Z Gangsta.
This guy killed off.
And then he had that chody ass fucking face paint on.
Yes. Remember the other guy, the really big white guy?
Right. That was him.
Jeep Swenson. Yes.
Yeah, this guy killed all the Jews.
Yeah. Originally, he was supposed to be originally they referred to him as the Final Solution. And then somebody realized that is what Hitler called the concentration camps. So they changed it, I think, by the pay-per-view to the Ultimate Solution or something like that. But that was Jeep Swenson.
He killed all the Jews.
But the summation of this match that I have is
sorry.
The match is supposed to be a brawl, and that's what it is. And you wouldn't expect it to be anything else. I didn't see Bruiser Brody and Jeep Swenson get in the ring and expect to see Dynamite Kid versus Tiger Mask. So for what it was only about 6 minutes long. It was fine. I didn't mind it.
The only 3 notes I had on it was Bruiser Brody sold really well. Looked like Jeep about tripped over his own feet going for the chair, and the reaction to Brody winning was pretty great.
Yeah. And you can tell, when Bruiser Brody likes somebody when he's selling, because Bruiser Brody didn't sell for anybody. So he must have liked Jeep Swenson. And for those of you who have never seen it, you should go watch Bruiser Brody versus Lex Luger, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Lex Luger left.
Yeah.
Like nobody in the history of wrestling has ever just left. Like just be like, all right, I'm out.
Have you ever seen that, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Bruiser Brody and Lex Luger in a cage, and it doesn't go well. Brody was not in a working cooperating match or mood that evening.
But he wasn't even the one. It's just like his opponent was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go.
So you said this is the last match, right?
This was the last match on the show. Yes.
See, I also saw Spike Huber versus the Eliminator. That is the only plus one.
I am sorry.
I'm sorry you saw that.
According to Wikipedia, there was a match that none of us saw. Let me go back to that.
It was like
and the only note I had on that was the lesson to learn from this match was helmet on, motherfucker. Because literally it had something to do with him having his helmet on as to why he didn't get fucked up whenever it was like a pile driver outside or something.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So the lesson to learn from that match was helmet on, motherfucker.
Yeah, the other match.
In case you were like me, any of you fans out there, and watch this shit on the cock of the pea.
There was apparently, let me see. I'm going to look at the card here. Actually, there were two matches none of us saw. Skip Young beat Brian Adias in a lumberjack match.
I'm probably glad I didn't see that, but I did see that on the Wikipedia.
And what?
Adidas.
Candy Divine defeated 5 other women wrestlers in a 6-woman mud pit match.
Yeah, I was upset that I didn't get to see that.
Oof. You don't want to see that with 80s women's wrestlers.
Oh yeah, I do. With the bouffant hair, you damn right.
It's like Donna Cristanello in the mud. Yeah,
she was a cocktail waitress with a Dolly Parton wig.
I just think I blew up a mud pit match.
It was definitely a mudslide, huh?
Well, retro. That is it. That is World Class Championship Wrestling Parade of Champions 1987. It was terrible.
It was a mudslide.
And retroactively, I would like to apologize to all of our listeners. This is the worst
for having
show
to listen to this shit.
This is the worst fucking show we've ever done.
Hopefully our opinions on this show was better than you actually going back and trying to watch this shit to see what the fuck we were talking about. Hey, they can't all be winners. They can't all be box office. Hey, any fucking show going forward is a winner compared to this one.
Well, next time around, go ahead, Aaron.
Just saying, it was like Candy Bovine and a mudslide ended it. What was it?
Candy Divine. Yeah, Candy Bovine and a mudslide. What is
with it? Candy Bovine.
It can't get any worse.
Sweet cow.
Next time around, we are going to do something that we don't normally do on this show enough, is talk about something a little more recent that Mark recommended that we review. It is it is an MLW Battle Riot. And what year was it from?
The first Battle Riot was
because I've seen this because at this time I was still watching MLW. It's like I was telling Mark on the side when we were talking about it. I watched MLW and MJF.
2018.
Okay, because I was watching MLW when
July 19th, 2018.
I was watching MLW back when MJF and Swerve Strickland were there and stuff. And it wasn't necessarily even at any point that I started disliking it. It just fell off my radar. Like, there's so much to watch all the time.
Well, I mean, when AEW rated it, it kind of went a little more down the drain.
Yeah,
but
it was AEW rating it mixed with COVID, and it just kind of, I don't know.
At the same time, though, they do have pretty good homegrown talent.
And they do. It's a good promotion. There's just so much. There's only so many hours, and I don't want to watch wrestling every hour of the day. So you have to pick and choose your battles.
If you ever see the Suplex Assassin Alex Kane, he was actually used on a couple of our independent shows down here. So
Hammerstone's really good.
Yeah,
Jacob Fatu's really good.
Great look. And Fatu with the stuff that he was doing with Mads Kruger, which is a local independent guy that a lot of people around here know. They're what was it? The Contra whole thing that they had going on. Mads Kruger is a local from around here in Georgia, and I actually have a ring worn piece of his that's pretty cool, that whenever we do go to talk about anything to do with him that I can break out.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't trying to, like, when you brought it up, Mark, talking about watching the MLW thing, I wasn't trying to say, I don't watch. I wasn't trying to, like, not current shit or anything like that. There's a lot of current shit I like. I just don't talk about it a lot. We don't talk about it a lot on here, so it'll be fun to dissect it and talk about it.
So that will be our next show. Mark, do you have any parting words for our listeners here on the worst show we've ever done?
Yeah, I'm really sorry that you had to listen to our critique of this bullshit, but I really enjoy doing this every week with you guys, and I look forward to doing next week on a show that I recommended. Not just because I recommended it, just because the matches on it are pretty solid.
Aaron?
I don't know if you guys have already watched or not, but
I'll watch it probably tomorrow.
I look forward to having something good to say.
And I'm sure I'll find a lot of fun things to say about it. And I have not even my show that I got going on which is the year that was ... But I have like 2 things that I'm doing right now. I've been watching all the pay-per-views from the 90s, from 90 to 99, and I'm finding all of the best fucking pay-per-view matches from those. And I'm almost done, and I'm going to narrow it down to the best 100 best pay-per-view matches from the 90s. And I'm gonna dwindle that down. But something that I might be wrong, but did Archie bring up something where like we're gonna be like, oh, what the fuck did we just watch?
Yes, at some point.
Yeah, at some point there's a thing on Peacock that we all have to watch. And it is the Teddy Hart documentary. Have you guys watched this?
No.
On Peacock? Holy fucking shit.
Yeah, I have. You talking about the Teddy Hart where he has all the cats and all that?
Yeah. Nate, if you have not watched that, you have to fucking watch it. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with this human being?
Well, I will check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty compelling. I'll be honest. I was thoroughly intrigued.
He's like Tarted Heart.
Yeah, he is definitely of all the hearts.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But anyway,
I'm sorry I did that. If anybody watching, I apologize.
Nobody's watching. This is
starving pygmies in New Guinea and all that shit, like Lady Cable guy said.
This is a podcast. Nate can edit out talking about fucking Tarted Heart. But I want to thank everybody that listened to this show. Listen to the year that was ... Listen to What the Art is Cooking. Listen to Reliving the Extreme. Listen to the Indie Spotlight. Listen to all this shit because we're all busting our asses and trying to give you guys good shows to listen to, because most wrestling podcasts suck because they just suck off some fucking dude they already know. And we're not sucking each other off. We're just having fun.
And that's what it's all about. If we have fun doing this, I hope you guys have fun listening to this.
Absolutely. And you now get the opportunity sometimes to watch our ugly mugs as well, because I'm going to end the show by plugging our WrestleNet Radio Podcast YouTube page. All you got to do is check out or search for WrestleNet. That's one word, Radio Podcast Network on YouTube. And we have a show on there that is exclusively to YouTube. That the first episode of it is up there now, and I think it turned out really well. We are going
the magazine one,
going cover to cover on old school wrestling magazines. So if you're an old school fan and like us, you like the magazines back when you were a kid, back in the day, looking through the magazines, that is what we are doing. The first episode we covered Sports Review Wrestling from February of 1986. And we had some fun doing it, and it was great. And it was a fun journey down memory lane. So please check that out again, WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network on YouTube for some video content exclusively on the YouTube page. And while you're there, subscribe. That's all you got to do. That being said, I'm going to sign off this week here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast, and we will see you next week as we will be covering Battle Riot 2018 from Major League Wrestling. Have a great week, everybody.